歡迎各位觀眾收睇呢一集嘅周一長談，我係你哋嘅節目主持人梁英年。咁喺呢一集咧，我係同大家咧係先講講而家喺大溫哥華嘅情況。嗱，而家咧就已經係1月尾啦。咁我哋咧喺今年又會有一個嘅選舉喎。你知唔知係咩選舉咧？就係整個 BC 省所有嘅城鎮咧都有一個嘅市選嘅。咁我今日咧特別咧同大家係睇下溫哥華嚟緊嘅市選會有啲乜嘢候選人。咁啊介紹其中一個。就已經係公開話咗，佢會係參選溫哥華市長競逐㗎啦。咁呢一位嘅嘉賓咧，其實都嚟過我呢個嘅節目㗎啦。咁今日咧，我再次咧就同佢傾下，佢又有啲咩新嘅發展，對於溫哥華而家嘅情況咧，又有啲咩嘅睇法嘅。咁佢咧就係 ABC 嘅市長候選人Ken Sim。咁我咧就同大家介紹一下。咁 Ken Sim 係咩人咧？咁啊，如果你有睇過我上一集嘅咧，都大概知道。不過今日咧好簡單咧，就再同佢傾一傾嘅。So welcome to the program, Ken.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I just introduced to our audience. Your name is Ken Sim. You are from ABC. Maybe you can tell us your name. You have a Chinese name, right?
I do have a Chinese name. It's Sam Gun Gin.
Sam Gun Gin. Now,
right.
I just mentioned ABC. Everyone know ABC. But what is ABC?
ABC, actually, we call it ABC. We call it a better city. It's a new political party that we started, myself and a few other people. We started probably about a year ago now, and it was in response to the fact that I did leave the party that I ran for last election, and we needed a party that represented all of Vancouver, not just part of Vancouver.
Now, when you talk about all of Vancouver, we know there's other political party, although they don't call themselves political party, just like the NPA. They are not a party, but they are a party. And you said you want a new party, so you're not satisfied with all the other parties that we already have in Vancouver. So why is it?
Well, there's a whole host of reasons, and I think I speak for most people in the city. There's no one party that truly represents all of us.
Right.
And so a lot of these parties, they focus on certain groups because they think that if they have enough of a certain group, they can win an election. But what happens is, you know, the other side of the city or another group gets left behind. And when I look at myself and a lot of the people that are like myself, you know, there is no left or right or, you know, homeowner versus renter in us or environmentalist versus non-environmentalist. I think we're a lot more complicated than that. And so, you know, I'm fiscally responsible. I'm also a family person. I actually believe in social causes. I'm an environmentalist, like pretty much everyone in Vancouver. Now, why does one party represent the environment and the other ones don't? It doesn't make any sense to me. And so a better city is all about taking the politics out of politics and actually doing what's right for the city and most of us.
You know, you talk about this term again, politics. We try to avoid politics in city affairs, but we have political parties, right, representing different sections of the population to go for an election. Now, you started this ABC, a better city. I call it a party. Now, why you want to be in municipal politics? I still use this term politics because a lot of people want to encourage people from the Chinese community to be in politics. There's federal politics, provincial politics, and now you want to be in municipal politics. Why you choose municipal instead of provincial or federal?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, this is very personal. And like I said, I don't want to be a career politician.
You don't want to be a politician?
Not at all.
I know. You are a businessman. You are a businessman.
I'm a business person. I'm
You're
a family
an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. And I think on your show last time that you had me on, I made it very clear that I have no aspirations whatsoever to be premier or prime minister of, you know, the province or the country. And I have to keep reinforcing that on these different shows. That way people can hold it in front of me and say, remember when you said you're not running for premier? Absolutely, because I never will. For me, this is deeply personal. I have 4 sons who are now ages 13 through 20. On your show last time, I said none of them see a future for themselves in Vancouver. It's gotten worse since then. I have a son who moved away to London, England to go to school. He definitely does not want to come back to Vancouver. He told me that he's not moving back. And so I'm losing family members.
Because you don't treat him well?
Well, I think I do. If you ask him, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why sons get upset with their fathers. But no, he just sees way more opportunity in London, and that he thinks the city, London, England, is really cool, and there's so much going on there. And he's right. I hate to say that because I'm a very proud Vancouverite. I love our city. This is my home. I will always live here.
Yeah, you were born and raised in Vancouver.
Born and raised, and I traveled. I moved away a few times, and I came back. And for me, this is my home. And we have to acknowledge that we are losing a lot of people because Vancouver has changed. And it's not the same Vancouver that we know. Like, all cities are going to change, but Vancouver, from a lot of different perspectives, is changing for the worse. And we're losing a lot of people. And personally, I've lost at least one son. I hope it ends there. I hope we can create a city where we attract not only my son, but other people like him back to our city. But we have a lot of work to do. And so when you ask me why I'm running for mayor, why I'm running for politics, it's deeply personal. And so this is my home.
So you want to make Vancouver, particularly people in Vancouver, proud again, to attract people to come back to Vancouver instead of going out to different places.
That's right. And, and we're building a better city.
Now, when you say you want to build a better city, a lot of people is complaining about Vancouver is the law and order issue. This is one of the most important issue.
Sure.
Right? Is to protect the citizen. It's the job of any government. In Vancouver, people are seeing the orderlessness. Right? The order is not here anymore. So what do you think about that situation, the street disorder? How can we fix it?
Yeah, well, once again, from a personal perspective, and I'm sure I speak for the the majority of Vancouverites, we all have had experiences with disorder, violence, being accosted. Obviously, being part of the Asian community. I've had some very personal experiences at the beginning of the pandemic. My sister, she was in Costco and she was accosted, and someone basically screamed at her, "Go back home." And my sister, look, this is her home. This is her home. She came here in 1967. I don't know how much more of home this could be for her. And I've had conversations with my boys. It's not a safe time right now. Like, don't get me wrong, Vancouver, relatively speaking, is safer than other cities on the planet, but it's gotten a lot worse, and it's gotten to the point where I've actually had conversations with my son saying, look, you have to be careful. At any point in time, you can get assaulted. And we live in Canada, for God's sakes, right? Like, this is completely ridiculous. And so, it's a real thing. And when we're in office, one of the many things we're going to do immediately is invest more in community safety, which means more officers on the street, but it also means more social workers, community health workers, to triage the chaos that we have on the streets in the short term as we look for longer term solutions.
Yeah. One is laughing, you should not laugh at that, it's because when we listen to our present mayor, he's tried to reduce the budget for the police.
Yep.
And then he changed his mind. The reason he changed his mind is because, we need more police when next time we have those environmental protests that block intersection of our street. We need police to be there. That is the reason he keep the police budget, not for public order and safety.
Yep.
Even the police complain, they are so busy during weekends. There's so many things happen, they don't have enough manpower to answer those calls. Yep. That is the situation, and you want to fix it.
Absolutely. I really do want to fix it. And when you look, I will never attack a person, but I will attack track record. And early on in our mayor's first administration, in 2019, 2020, he was actually attacking the police.
Yeah.
Right. He was attacking the budget. He was, he actually stepped away from the police board. And as chair of the police board, it is your responsibility to either, if you believe there's an issue, you fix it. You don't run away from the issue if you truly believe there's an issue. And he ran away from it. And so, if we're concerned about community safety, we have a current mayor that's running away from that responsibility.
Now, once you talk about the disorder and law and order and safety of the street, people will think right away it's a drug problem. People will just blame on the drug problem. It's all caused by the drug problem. Is it the case? And that's why there's more and more people, including the city, is now championing the legalization or decriminalization of illegal drug to make it legal, so
Yeah.
people can get drug more easily. Then we'll solve this crime problem. We'll
Yeah.
solve this disorderly problem.
Well, is the question, do I support decriminalization of drugs, or are you
Is
talking
it the
about-
right way to go to decriminalize or legalize so we won't have this problem on our street? Then we solve maybe half or more than half of the problem that we're talking about.
Yes, but I have to qualify that answer. So if you look at the decriminalization of drugs, every single health authority and police force across this country actually supports it. And we already have it. So regardless of what the law says, the Vancouver Police Department hasn't arrested anyone for possession of drugs in a very long time. I think it's like 7 or 8 years now. Okay, so we already have it. But it doesn't work if we don't have all 4 pillars of what they call the 4 pillars approach, which is prevention, harm reduction, treatment and recovery, and community safety. Right? So if you provide housing and the decriminalization of drugs, that's harm reduction. Right? So basically, you house people and you make sure they don't die of poison drugs in the street. But if you don't have treatment and recovery, which helps people get better, and if you don't have community safety, providing people with clean drugs isn't going to solve anything. And that's what we have right now. And so I do support decriminalization because that's actually based on data. When you talk to all the different health authorities and the police departments, they support it. But you have to have a whole approach or none of this works.
Now, you raise a good point. It's a 4-pillar approach. Homelessness is one of the most important ones right now because of all the people on the street.
Sure.
Now, when government talk about solving this home problem, they said increase tax. Because you have a home, I can just get money out of you whenever I need more money. In Vancouver, we have this kind of tax grab. It's non-stop. You have the empty home tax, you have the foreign buyers tax. Now the federal government, the CMHC, is proposing $1 million house progressive tax. And then we have those multi-million-dollar home surtax. And then the property increase every year is out of range. This year is 6.5%.
Yeah.
Is it the right way to go? If tax the homeowner can solve the problem, then we won't have any problem.
Yeah.
But how do you solve this homelessness problem? It's one of your 4-pillar approach.
Yeah. Okay, well, let me ask you this question. With all these taxes, do we still have a homeless problem? Do
Yes,
we still
it's
have an
even worse.
affordability problem? Absolutely. And so I've never seen a situation where we've taxed ourselves into prosperity. Now, do I support taxes? Absolutely. Some base level of taxes. But let's get to the real issue here. Let's look at the data. Let's see what works. And right now, it's not working. And so, I hate to be simplistic, but we have basically a supply and demand issue. We don't have as much supply and we have a lot of demand. And by increasing taxes and what have you, that's not going to solve that imbalance. And we have to get back to building more housing on all different levels for all different socioeconomic groups for our city to be successful. So how we do that, we go back into, we do everything that the city can do, which is basically speeding up permitting, and making it easier to build housing, work on zoning, and do smart builds. And if we do that, we can make a significant impact on affordability while keeping taxes lower.
Now, people may say talk is easy. Everyone has been mentioning about that. Increase the supply.
Yeah.
Then we can fulfill the demand. Then we have a balance. But in City Hall, people complain the time it needs to get any permit to deal with a house.
Yeah.
Is the City Hall doing the right thing, and how do you solve this problem? Is the entire process need to be revamped? What is your plan?
Absolutely, the process definitely needs to be revamped. I really respect the people that work at City Hall. We are lucky to have them. Okay, let's put it out there right now. And I think I said that on your show the last time. The challenge we have is they're working in with broken processes, so they're set up to fail. One of the things that we're going to do is we're promoting what we call the 3x3x3 plan. And so what that means is if you're looking for a permit on a simple renovation or a business permit, you're going to get that within 3 days. If you're looking to build a standard house that, basically is going to get built anyway that fits in the neighborhood, we're going to get you that permit within 3 weeks. And then for larger complex builds, like condo towers and what have you, we will get you your initial permits within 3 months. And if we don't get them to you, we will actually award, if we miss those deadlines, we'll award them to you.
Now, it's easy to say that you have this service promise, but that means you need to have more people working in City Hall, then you increase our tax again.
No. In fact, anything but that. So, we're going to have the same number of people. We're not going to let anyone go, but we're not going to add people. Because at the end of the day, like I said, and like your question alluded to, our processes are wrong. So adding more people to a broken process will actually make things worse. So when it comes to the permits on building a new house, in 3 weeks.
How can you get that in 3 days?
Well, for building a brand new house, it would be 3 weeks. And so what we would do is we would actually give you a checklist if you were to build a house, and then you would take it with your architect or certified professional, and you would fill out the checklist. Once it's filled out, you come back to us, and we will award your permits within 3 weeks, because we already know that the certified professionals or the architects that we approve of the city, they're good, right? Because we vetted them. And so why are we doing the work of professionals when they've already done the work? We'll spot audit them and what have you, but basically that's how we change that process. And so we can actually speed up the process, lower the cost for you as the builder, build it faster, and at the same time be able to keep taxes, like we don't have to increase taxes because we added more people to a broken process.
Yeah, that sounds very straightforward, and that's reasonable. You go to a professional, a licensed, certified people to fill out the form, and the city have to go back and do the whole thing again. That is a waste of time.
It's a waste of time. And the great thing is we will actually create a great environment in the city in terms of we make the job easier for the people that work at the city, which is great. We're in an environment right now where it is hard to attract people. It doesn't matter if you work at government or in a company. There is a war on talent, and we are so lucky to have the people that we have at the city. This is a win-win-win. We make it great for the people that are trying to build. We also make it great for the people that we're fortunate to have at City Hall.
Now, and then the other problem related to the city process is the city looking after too many things, something that are not essential or the core service of the city. Can you tell us, what do you think about the core service? What are the core service of a city government? In this present government, they are now even considering using taxpayers' money to support a challenge of a Quebec bill, a Bill 21. It's nothing to do with BC, nothing to do with Vancouver, but they are considering to use your money, taxpayers' money, to fight this court challenge.
Yeah.
Is this a core service?
No, it definitely is not. And my recommendation to anyone at City Council that supports that, they should really move to Quebec and run for premier of the province, because that is, while noble, that's not what the City of Vancouver does, and that's not why we elect officials to represent Vancouverites. Our core services, and I don't want to oversimplify this, it's basically, look, we provide community safety through the Vancouver Police Department. We issue permits so you can start up a business or build a home. We remove waste, residential waste. We fill potholes.
Everybody's been talking about the reason today.
Absolutely. It's really intimate. It's immediate. That's what a city should be doing. We shouldn't be virtue signaling and fighting causes that are outside of the City of Vancouver that don't relate to the City of Vancouver directly. I'm not saying don't fight those causes, but don't do it if you're an elected councillor, because that is not your role.
Yeah, a City Hall should be the one look after your immediate need. as a citizen living in a city. Now,
Absolutely.
while you're talking about business, recently we know when you go to buy a cup of coffee in a coffee shop, you have to pay extra for a cup, or you bring your own cup.
Yeah.
Just like those chain restaurant, you can bring your own cup to get your coffee.
Yeah.
But if you need a cup provided by the coffee shop, you have to pay extra. And you cannot have plastic bag in the city now.
Yeah.
Everyone is now fighting. How should I go to buy something that's wet, like a fish? If you don't provide me a plastic bag, how am I going to get the fish home?
Yeah.
How are we going to deal with this kind of problem? We know it's essential because we are environmental conscious.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's very inconvenient for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, speaking from a business owner that has firsthand experience of it, I understand what the city's trying to do, but I do think the process is flawed. So when we have a company called Rosemary Rock Salt, we make bagels and we sell coffee.
Yeah, you're a coffee shop owner.
Yeah. And so we have to charge now 25 cents per cup. And if we don't, we can actually get fined by the city and we can get in a lot of
So
trouble.
you raise the price of coffee,
No,
essentially.
well, yeah, effectively, but we
Yeah.
actually put it on our bills as this another 25 cents per cup.
And you charge tax on that 25 cents.
Yeah, and you charge, and so and the thing is, look, we will take the money and we'll put it towards some environmental issue. But companies don't have to do it. It's a recommendation. So it doesn't really help the environment too much, but what it does do, it actually hurts people who can, who may have a challenge, buying a cup of coffee, right? Because all of a sudden it became a lot more expensive. And then to your point, there are certain things where plastic bags actually do make sense. And remember, I'm an environmentalist, but how do you wet fish, as an example?
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
A fresh fish is wet.
yeah, so it's oversimplified, and I don't think it's necessarily the right way of approaching it. There are other ways of approaching, these issues to make sure that you reduce the number of cups and landfills and what have you. I just don't think this was effective.
Well, but just in general, Vancouver has declared this climate crisis for many, many years.
Sure.
It is a crisis. That's why we don't talk about the dollar sign. It doesn't matter how much you have to spend on it because it's a crisis. That's why we have to deal with it. That's so people have been proposing environmental tax. If you build a new house, you need all those new environmental standards and it add to the cost. And that's why housing is even cost every year increase.
Yeah.
And it's not affordable to a lot of people. How do we balance the two problems, environmental requirement, climate crisis, and the cost to the average citizen?
Yeah, and so I want to, qualify this with the fact that I am an environmentalist, and I believe that, we as humans, we are accelerating the rate of climate change, and we will have significant issues. We're going to have, civil wars, and the climate's going to change, and we're going to have more storms and what have you. So these are important issues to solve, but that doesn't mean that you can just say we have a climate crisis and we're just going to throw a lot of money at it and not even think about it. And if you challenge this, it's wrong. I think what we need to do is everything that we do, we have to say, well, this is how much it costs, and this is the impact we're going to get from it. And if we can do that, then we can start to measure whether or not we're doing the right things. And as an environmentalist, I actually want that, because I don't, if we have limited resources, I don't want to throw our investments at dumb investments, whereas there's other great things for the environment that we can be doing.
Now, when you talk about business, do you look at hosting an Olympic a business venture? Do you support to have another Olympic in Vancouver again?
First blush, absolutely. When you sort of look at it, we have shown the world that we can hold a very successful Olympics. And we have most of the existing infrastructure in place. And we will have to build another Olympic village to house the athletes, but then we can repurpose that for more housing for people that are going to be living in Vancouver in the future. Now, first blush, it all makes sense. I will support the Olympic bid if, when we look at the numbers, it still makes sense and the Vancouver taxpayers aren't on the hook. And I actually think that we can achieve all of that. and it could be a winner. Like it's almost a no-brainer. And I'm actually super excited about hosting another Olympics because the sense of pride that we had as Vancouverites, and it brought not only just our community, it brought the whole country together. And it showed the world that Vancouver and Canada could be world-class. We could be the best. So I love it, and I think it's an inspiration. It'll provide inspiration for all of our kids and the next generation.
So you want to be the host to light the Olympic torch again in Vancouver?
Yeah, that would be great. And in conjunction with the four First Nations, the 4 nations that are supporting the bid.
Right, because the Aboriginals, they are behind this bid, and they support to have an Olympic in Vancouver. That's bring people together.
Brings people together.
Yeah, but before we can have an Olympic, we're still in this pandemic. People is being affected. A lot of people have this gloomy feeling right now.
Yeah.
And Vancouver is hit very heavily by that pandemic, all the business, every day-to-day life. So do you have a plan? Do we have a future after this pandemic? And how do you have this recovery?
We have an amazing future if we plan for it. And so thank you for bringing up the fact that, people are still, they're feeling apprehensive and they don't know if they want to support the Olympics. Wayne Gretzky had a great line, don't look at where the puck is, look at where it's going to be. Okay? Are we going to be in this pandemic, in 2030? That's 8 years from now. We need to be able to plan out 8 years, and we need to plan out for the fact that we will get through this. And if we're still in a pandemic, it's going to look different, and we're going to be prepared for it. We'll adapt as humans. So we have to plan for our recovery right now. And hosting the Olympics would be one amazing way to plan for that.
So that's 8 years down the line, and so we have to do all the work towards that. But at the meantime, just how do we get back on our feet after this pandemic? Do you have a plan for Vancouver?
Sure. Well, let's talk about business because that will be the backbone of our recovery. We have to do things immediately where our businesses can get up and running and they can survive. Then we have to focus on what we need to do to make sure that businesses can succeed here. And then also we need to focus on how do we attract more business to come to Vancouver. So in the short term, how do they survive? We're going to actually speed up permits. Once again, not super sexy, but if we can issue permits almost immediately, we let businesses get up and running. And then we lower taxes as well. How do we get businesses to thrive here? Well, the big challenge that we have is the housing affordability and having people be able to afford to live in Vancouver and want to live in Vancouver. So once again, it comes down to speeding up the permitting, making sure that we build housing for all different groups along that socioeconomic spectrum, so people can afford to live here. But also we create a vibrant city, what we call our 15-minute city, where people will actually want to live here because we have great neighborhoods. And then how do we attract more businesses here? Well, one of the first things I'm going to do when I'm mayor of Vancouver within the first 100 days, I'm actually going to go to Seattle, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Austin, Texas, and we're going to meet all the major technology companies that are changing the world. And we are going to ask them, what do they need to either increase their current presence in Vancouver, or how do they relocate some, or if not all of their operations to Vancouver? And then we're going to take that back and we're going to do what makes sense to attract those businesses. That will create higher paying jobs in our city. It will actually create other business opportunities for companies that support them. And that will actually allow people to have more money to be able to afford to pay for housing in our city. It's a win-win-win.
So you have a plan in your pocket. Now, when people hear what you say and if they are interested and excited, you cannot be just a one-man band as a mayor. You need people to work in the city hall, like councillors or all other people. How will you attract more talent to run for city hall as councillors so you can build your team, so you can go toward your goals together?
Yeah, well, we actually have a great problem. We actually have over 30 people to date that have expressed a very strong interest in running with us.
Oh, that's a good problem.
It's a great problem, and you know what? The doors are still wide open. So for anyone who's watching this show, please contact us if you want to run for a council, park, or school board, because we're looking for great people from across our city that represent the communities who have great ideas. But no, we're going to field in an amazing team, and it's going to be super exciting.
So what's the easiest way to contact you? Maybe to give you a new idea how you can serve the city better, or they want to run as a candidate in the next election?
The best way to to contact us is to visit our website at abettercity.ca. Once again, that's abettercity.ca, and you can go there. You can learn more about us. You can click on a volunteer button if you want. You can run for office. You can donate if you want to. That would be great as well. But learn more about us and be part of the movement, because this movement is bigger than any one person, including myself. I'm not here just to run for mayor. This is about a huge team, a huge movement, where we're all tired of how politics have been done in the past, and we just want to change the direction of our city and make it better. And so be part of that movement.
Now that's all the time we have. So 好多謝咧各位觀眾咧今日收睇周一強談㗎。咁我同大家介紹咗呢個 About the City 呢個喺溫哥華嘅政黨同埋佢哋嘅市長候選人 Ken Sim 沈官健嘅。咁嚟緊日子咧，我會希望可以有更多嘅機會同大家介紹其他嘅城市不同嘅政黨喺嚟緊呢個嘅10月整個 BC 省嘅市選咧，大家有更多嘅資料咧，可以為你作出一個明智嘅選擇。多謝大家嘅收看，拜拜。